When I got back from work, I found my neighbor, a battered woman, standing in front of my house. She looked so cold and miserable that I couldn't just leave her there. I invited her inside, offered her a bath, and made her a meal. Curious about what had happened, I asked her about her situation. 3 weeks later, a stern-looking man in a black suit knocked on my door. "Please accept the rights to a $6 million house," he said. "What? My name is Lucas. I'm just an average office worker, nothing special. But one thing sets me apart. My parents have passed away. If they had died from an illness or old age, it might be a common situation. But in my case, it was different. About a month after I started at my current job, I was still learning the ropes. One day, my boss approached me, looking pale. "Lucas, stay calm," the police called. "Your parents were hit by a runaway car and taken to the hospital." My mind went blank. My coworker at the next desk froze, his hand stopping on the keyboard. "We're going to the hospital now," my boss said. "I'll drive you there. Stay strong." My bosses were amazing. They took me to the hospital and stayed by my side. At the hospital, a uniformed police officer greeted me and led me to the morgue. My parents had been hit by a car driven by an elderly person who had a heart attack and couldn't brake. They died instantly, as did the driver. I collapsed, and my boss held me up, guiding me to a chair. I couldn't stop shaking. The driver's family arrived, and his son, looking about my dad's age, apologized repeatedly. "I'm so sorry, my father. I'm so sorry." My boss stepped in, protecting me. "I understand you've lost your father too, but he's just lost both his parents. Apologizing now isn't appropriate." The man's shoulders shook. "Please come back another day with a lawyer." Thanks to my boss, I didn't lash out. The driver's family left, and my boss comforted me. "You need to rest. The company will handle everything." The company really did take care of everything. I received compensation and a formal apology with a lawyer present. The driver's family kept apologizing, but with the driver gone, there was no one to direct my anger at. I accepted the money and moved on, avoiding further involvement with the family. I continued living alone in the house I shared with my parents. The surrounding neighborhood had new, impressive buildings, and the house next door had recently been occupied. I noticed the moving truck, but never saw who moved in. People these days often skip greetings due to privacy concerns. The young family next door must have been like that. I thought I'd at least say hello. A few days later, on my way home from work, just as I was about to reach my house, I witnessed a woman walking in front of me drop her groceries as her paper bag tore. Hearing the woman's small cry, I immediately rushed over. I picked up an orange that had rolled to my feet and went over to the woman. But it would be difficult for her to carry everything home in the torn paper bag, so I offered her my own reusable bag that I always carry, saying, "Please put everything in here to take home." "What? But my house is right there," she said when I pointed to my house. "Oh, I see," she responded, sensing something odd about the context. It seemed the woman lived in the luxurious house next door. The woman's name was Emily. Emily was, how should I put it, extremely thin, and her voice was faint and small when she spoke. Emily seemed a bit surprised to learn I lived next door. Well, I can say I don't understand that feeling. After all, my house is so run down you couldn't even flatter it by calling it a nice home. "Oh, I'm sorry. I just assumed an elderly person lived there." "No, it's an old house, so it can't be helped," I replied to the apologetic Emily with a wry smile. I'm sorry for not introducing myself. My husband said moving and greetings aren't necessary these days. So I figured as much. I know many people nowadays think neighborly relations are unnecessary. About this reusable bag, I'll return it right away, so please wait a moment." Emily hurried inside, saying that. I watched her go, and after waiting a bit, Emily came back holding something. The neatly folded reusable bag and beautifully wrapped cookies. I'm pretty confident in my baking. Please have some if you'd like." Inside the cute wrapping were delicious-looking cookies that could pass for store-bought. The simple bite-sized round cookies looked like something you'd make at home with kids. "Thank you. Did you make these with your children?" "No, I don't have kids. It's just me and my husband living here." "I see. Even if I wrap them like this, I'm the only one who eats what I make, but I enjoy both making and eating sweets." I could tell that Emily, who smiled softly like that, really loved baking. However, the fact that she's the only one eating them means her husband probably doesn't eat these sweets. "Thanks for the cookies." I said a quick word and opened the wrapping on the spot to eat a cookie. The bite-sized cookie had a vanilla flavor and crumbled softly in my mouth. It was truly delicious, no flattery needed. Delicious. It's been a while since I had such tasty cookies. I can feel your passion for baking. I expressed my thoughts, including my gratitude. Emily probably didn't expect me to open the wrapping and eat one right then and there. After looking at me in surprise, she thanked me with a big smile. "Thank you so much." It started from that day. Emily and I never exchanged contact information, but we started frequently greeting each other. Also, after I got home from work and turned on the lights, a few minutes later, the intercom would ring. My intercom is an old one that goes ding when pressed and dong when released. But when I went to the front door, Emily had started bringing me sweets. At first, I intended to refuse. After all, she was a married woman, and I understood this wasn't exactly praiseworthy behavior. However, her actions clearly stemmed from a desire for someone to eat the sweets she made. Talking to her, I learned that Emily's husband, Mark, was devoted to his work, and the couple never went out together. They were still a young couple, but with no kids, their life must have lost its color. Could she be lonely like me? I realized Emily's loneliness. Once I did, I couldn't flatly refuse and started accepting her sweets and giving my thoughts, saying things like, "Yesterday's baked goods had a great texture and went well with coffee. I like them." Or, "Those crispy sweets are perfect when you want a little snack. They're bite-sized, so you can eat them while working." I could have as many as I want. This became the norm. Emily would then head home, looking blissfully happy with a big smile. I spent several weeks like that. I know this lifestyle isn't good. Emily is a married woman, yet I found myself growing more and more fond of her presence. My heart, which had gone cold after suddenly losing my parents, was starting to feel warm again. Just seeing Emily's smile made my wintry night-like heart feel the warm rays of a spring sun. I never visited her house. I just waited for Emily to bring me sweets. Then, one day, Emily stopped bringing sweets. She had been bringing them every other day, if not every day. Did her husband find out? A wife bringing homemade sweets to a single man's house? It's only natural to suspect infidelity. I'm innocent, but from the husband's perspective, he can't be at peace. It's going to be lonely again. Ever since Emily stopped coming, I've been feeling the same loneliness as when I lost my parents. No, even greater loneliness than back then. I've been spacing out more at work, making even my boss and manager worry. I don't really have any hobbies, so nothing is fun, no matter what I do. Gradually, my appetite diminished, and even when eating things I like, it felt like chewing on sand, making it even harder to eat. I could feel my energy draining, but even though I knew this wasn't good, there was nothing I could do about it. Geez, I was starting to feel a creeping sense of despair about various things when I finished work that day and headed home. I've been feeling heavy this whole time, and I know I need to snap out of it, but I just can't get motivated. Thinking that, I lifted my head and saw a figure in front of my house. That swaying shadow would make you think it was a ghost. That figure wasn't a ghost, of course, but her hair was a mess and her feet were bare. She wasn't even wearing sandals, let alone shoes. But that figure was unmistakably Emily. I hurried over to her with a start. "Emily?" Getting closer, I could see clearly. The clothes Emily was wearing were dirty, and she wasn't even wearing a coat. It's winter now. Emily was thoroughly chilled to the bone. When Emily, who had been hugging her own arms, embraced me, my course of action was decided. Emily, please come inside the house. I'm sorry. Her voice was so faint, I knew she was nearing her limit. I urged Emily into the house, my hand on her back. I immediately put the heater on and made Emily a hot chocolate. Here you go. In the brighter room, I could see that Emily was terribly dirty, and being barefoot, she looked miserable from head to toe. What on earth happened to you? I'm sorry. I'm not accusing you. Why were you outside in that state in this season? Actually, my husband kicked me out of the house. What? Emily told me the circumstances, sniffling and sobbing. She said her husband had kicked her out of the house 3 days ago. What was he thinking, kicking her out in this cold weather in light clothing? If it rained or snowed, she'd freeze in no time. Since that long ago, where were you for those 3 days? I'm embarrassed to say, but the park. What? You were homeless? I furrowed my brows at Emily's reply and showed her to the bathroom. I have many things I'd like to ask, but you must be cold, right? Please use the bath. But I'm dirty, so it's a bath. Feel free to use my mother's soap and shampoo. I explained the soap, shampoo, and hairdryer in the bathroom. For a change of clothes, I offered some of my mother's. Emily seemed hesitant but nodded, as if enjoying a bath for the first time in a while. While she was in the bath, I prepared a simple meal. Tonight's dinner was tater tots I bought from the nearby shopping district, 1 serving of chicken noodle soup split between 2 people that's easy on the stomach, and a salad with just lettuce, cucumber, and cherry tomatoes. Add some meat, and it's a sufficient meal. If it were just me, I would have made do with just the tater tots and soup. Just as I finished preparing, Emily came out of the bath. She tilted her head, asking about the 2 meals laid out on the table. Where are your parents? Oh, it's just me. What? I lost them in an accident. I was reluctant to say it, not wanting to worry kind Emily, but there was no hiding it in this situation. When I honestly told her that my parents had passed away in an accident, Emily shed large tears and grieved for me. Just that warmed my heart. So these clothes belong to your mother, and you cherish them, right? Yes, but if no one wears them, they'll just get eaten by moths. Thank you for lending them to me. After that, we had dinner facing each other. Emily said, "It's really delicious," and ate in a way that made it clear she truly found it tasty, which made me happy and enabled me to properly eat a meal for the first time in a while. Afterwards, I made some warm tea and asked Emily to tell me more. Even if it's meddlesome, sometimes letting it all out when you're going through a hard time can make you feel better. The story Emily told was terrible. My husband has chauvinistic views. Women should shut up and do as men say, walk 3 steps behind a man, wake up earlier than a man, don't go to bed before a man, he says. He sounds way too old-fashioned. What's wrong with your husband? If anything happens, he immediately yells, and even if nothing happens, he says, "You are really useless." If there's even the slightest thing he doesn't like, he hits me. On top of that, he said, "That's why I told you I hate sweets. What's with this sickly sweet smell? I forbid you from baking ever again," and threw out all my baking tools like my whisk and rubber spatula, even things that can be used for cooking without my permission. What? I did the housework properly. Baking was the only time I felt healed, but having that taken away from me, not knowing what to look forward to or work hard for, I fell into despair. I lost all my energy. Emily hung her head and sniffled. Inevitably, I started neglecting the housework, and my husband got furious, saying, "There's still dust. I told you to always have at least 3 side dishes. There are still wrinkles in my shirt." I endured it, But 3 days ago, he said, "I don't need a wife like you," and kicked me out of the house. No way. I was at home, so I wasn't wearing a coat, and I didn't have my wallet or phone. I had nowhere to go, barefoot. I could tell that Emily, covering her face with both hands, was in really bad shape. "Did you contact your parents' home?" "No. Actually, my mother passed away from illness a long time ago, and I was raised by my father the whole time." "What?" "When I got married, my father was overjoyed and said, 'Now I can rest easy.' I wanted to put my father's mind at ease. With only that in mind, I did my best and couldn't rely on anyone. For those 3 days, I had been sleeping in the park, but when I reached my limit in terms of hunger and mental state, my feet unconsciously turned toward your house." Emily's story was pretty harsh. "I'm sorry for bothering you, not just today, but up until now," Emily said. "You figured out that I was bringing sweets because I wanted to hear your thoughts and be praised, right? I'm really selfish. I'm sorry." Emily apologized to me while crying. "You don't need to apologize, Emily. More importantly, let's go to your father's place." "But I don't have parents anymore." "But you have someone you can rely on, and just maybe, I think your father would be happy if you relied on him." "You think so?" "Yeah, it's better to say what you can while they're still alive. If you regret not saying something after losing them, it'll be too late." When I persuaded her like that, Emily shed tears again. The next day, I lent Emily some of my mother's clothes and a bit of money, and she got in a taxi to go back to her parents' home. 3 weeks passed since I sent Emily back to her parents' place. Suddenly, a stern-looking man in a black suit came to my place. I felt like pretending I didn't see him and closing the door. The reason I didn't was because the man introduced himself as Emily's father. Believing his words, I invited him inside my house. I showed him to the living room of my old house, served tea, and we sat facing each other. He straightened his posture and looked straight into my eyes. "Thank you for convincing my daughter to come back home." "No need to thank me. So your daughter was able to safely return home." "I see. To be honest, I was worried her husband might obstruct her, so I was relieved. I am Emily's father, Brandon. My daughter is a bit sheltered, so if you hadn't convinced her, who knows what would have happened. I can't express my gratitude enough." Brandon's words cleared up a mystery I had been pondering for a while. As I thought, Emily seemed like a well-born lady. "Please accept this as a token of my appreciation." "What?" I said, surprised. "It's a deed to a 3-bedroom house on the top floor of that high-rise condo over there. Market price is $6 million. Here you go," he said, placing the deed on the table. Surprised by the sudden offer, I pushed the deed back and refused. "I don't need that. That's not why I helped her." "Then why did you help my daughter?" he asked while smiling. I was at a loss for a reply, but even if I said it was just normal kindness, he probably wouldn't believe me. "I'm sorry. I ended up falling for your daughter, for Emily. Of course, I never intended to do anything and haven't done anything. The reason I helped her was because I like her, because I didn't want to see Emily's sad face. I honestly spoke my mind. I heard about you from my daughter. The food, the clothes, even lending her your late mother's clothes. Just hearing about it made me realize how sincere and good you are. But meeting you directly like this, I feel that way even more," Brandon said. He held out the deed again and said with difficulty, "That's exactly why I hate to say this, but won't you live in a new house? This house is, well, quite old. Drafts come through the gaps, and it's so cold I suspect the insulation has been eaten by mice." Emily must have told him about that condition. That's why Brandon is trying to give me this deed with good intentions. This house is filled with precious memories of my late parents, so I want to keep living here forever. "I'm sorry, even though you went to the trouble," I said with heartfelt apology. Brandon slowly shook his head. "No, You truly are a kind-hearted person. Please, I ask that you take good care of my daughter." He looked straight into my eyes, saying that once more. Not understanding the true meaning behind his words, I tilted my head. But after that, I was able to get in touch with Emily through Brandon, and we were reunited. On my next day off, I was invited to Emily's parents' home and treated to homemade sweets. I fought many times over the sweets Emily makes have a gentle flavor. After that, I was able to divorce that man. "What, really?" I asked. Yes, apparently he was terrible at work too, and his coworkers were complaining about how overbearing he was, so he was about to get fired. I figured as much. Hearing about his attitude toward Emily, I thought he was probably the same way at work. "Well, regardless of that, I intend to properly squeeze consolation money out of him," Emily said, smiling. She had become an incomparably different woman than before. Emily said, "I don't want to cause you trouble, so I'm going to get strong. I'll do my best." After Emily's divorce was finalized, we officially started dating. In our state, you can't treat Mary for 30 days after divorce. It seems that this waiting period exists because former spouses typically have 30 days to appeal a divorce agreement. After the divorce was finalized, we got married without issue a year later. Giving it simply way, Emily agreed to live in my family home, but as it is, it's too rundown. By the way, Emily's ex-husband already left that bait house too, due to consolation money and demotion, so I think Emily won't be bothered by it either. I was relieved about that too. Considering Brandon's feelings, he probably wants his daughter to live in a proper house. Realizing that, I resolved to renovate my family home. The renovation company was an acquaintance of Brandon's, someone who properly understood my feelings. Taking into account my desire to not erase my parents' memories, they renovated my family home while preserving its original look as much as possible. A few years later, we were blessed with a long-awaited child. Gazing at the children's room we had prepared for when we might have a child someday, I muttered, "It's good to cherish memories, but we've got to cherish the future too." Emily, now my wife, said, "That's right, but I want to cherish the past too. The present exists because of the past, so let's make lots of memories and build happiness in this house from now on." We smiled and expressed our gratitude to our parents in our hearts. As I gently stroked the growing belly of a happily smiling Emily, I felt hope for the future that was to come.